es Becka.
Mi nombre es Pablo.
My name's Sam.
Thanks for watching us on DPS TV. Hi, today we're going to talk about everybody's favorite math topic, fractions. Actually, no, we're actually going to talk about how to get rid of fractions if we come across them in equations. I call them fraction busters. It's really just a method that if you have fractions in an algebra equation, to bust them, to get rid of them. Bye. And the method is pretty simple. All we have to do is multiply everything in our equation by a common denominator. So we look at our denominators and we decide from there what a common denominator would be, or what they both can go into, and multiply our whole equation by that. So for example, the first equation on the left, x over 3 plus x over 2 equals 5. Our denominators are 3 and 2. So what we can do is look at all of the things that we could multiply 3 by to turn it into something else, the multiples. 3, 6, 9, and so on. We have 2, which is 2, 4, 6, and so on. And what you see is that a common denominator could be 6. They could both turn into 6. So what we're going to do instead of turning the denominators into 6 is we're going to multiply everything in our equation by this common denominator. So I'm going to take the left side of my equation times 6, and I'm going to take the right side of my equation times 6. What happens, and I'm going to show you a little math on the side just so you can see what is actually happening, is I'm taking 6 times every term here. So I go 6 over 1 times x over 3, which gives me 6x on top. We just multiply across, and 1 times 3 on the bottom, which is just 3. This is going to simplify. We do 6x divided by 3. It's going to simplify to 2x. So our first term here, x over 3, is now turning into 2x. No more fractions. Kind of like magic. Our second one, we're going to take 6 times x over 2. So 6 over 1 times x over 2. We end up getting 6x on top, 6 times x, and on the bottom, 1 times 2 is 2. 6x divided by 2 is going to simplify to 3x. So that means the second term here is going to turn into 3x. On the right, we've got some easy multiplication. We've got 5 times 6. That's just going to give us 30. And ta-da! We've changed our equation from something that looks very kind of complicated because of the fractions into something a lot more simple. From here, we would just combine our like terms. 2x plus 3x equals 5x. Divide both sides by 5, and we end up getting x is equal to 6. A lot easier to solve than the equation at the beginning, just by getting rid of the fractions. So we're going to do the same thing for the second equation. It can work just as well, even if we have variables in our denominator. We're thinking of what each denominator can turn into. So if you think about this, the one on top, 2x, we could do 4x, we could do 6x, and so on. X could be x, x squared, x to the third power, and so on. 6 could be 6, 12, and so on. What we find common in all three of these is the 6 with those two, and then the x with these two. So what we're going to say our common denominator is 6x. That means we are going to multiply both sides of our equation by 6x, and that should get rid of our fractions. So we'll start on the left, times 6x, and then on the right, times 6x. We'll use this one up top there, times 6x. So on the left, we end up having 6x over 1 times 3 over 2x. Multiplying across, we get 18x, and then on the bottom, 1 times 2x, we get 2x. 18 divided by 2 is just 9. And x divided by x, anything divided by itself, is just 1, so those cancel. So this first term here turns into 9. Got to erase this for room. So we're going to turn this first term into 9. We're going to do the same for our second term, 6x over 1 times 5 over x. We end up getting 30x on the top, and on the bottom, 1 times x is x. Our x over x's cancel, so we just have 30. Last one, on the right side, we have 13 over 6 times 6x. And we can cancel our 6's, and I can show you why we can do that in another episode. But we can cancel our 6's, and we end up getting 13x over 1, which anything over 1 just itself, right? So on the right side, we have 13x. So we've busted our fractions again. Essentially, by multiplying by that common denominator, we've gotten rid of them completely, and we have a much simpler equation. So we'll just finish solving this one. 9 plus 30, combining our like terms, we have 39 is equal to 13x. To isolate x, we're going to divide both sides by 13, and we end up getting 3 is equal to x. So all in all, just as a kind of a summary, we can get rid of fractions in equations. They don't need to be as complicated as they look, just by multiplying the entire equation by a common denominator. Hopefully that helps.